Welcome to Discourse. Today we're going to be discussing God's Words, Preaching Peace While Justifying Violence by Ricardo Sevilla. God's words answer many ancient and very modern questions. For instance, if the sacred scripture has a divine origin, could it rationally justify violence? Also, could it be possible to find a liaison between imperialism and mystic dogmas? How is it possible to challenge the roots of religious intolerance? Is sacred scripture a history book? The answers are critical for the pious observers and the opponents of religions, plus transcendent for self-understanding. So the author does an amazing job with presenting a lot of information to us based off of his own research, based off of other people's scientific research and papers and books, and he does a really good job with notating and citing a lot of different passages, a lot of different information from a lot of different types of scriptures and texts.
Within the text itself, and also at the end of each chapter, he has like a note section that talks to where he got the specific information from, and the pages, the chapters within those notes, documents, whatever it may be.
Yeah, and I think it's super helpful just because for people who aren't familiar with the Bible or any religious text, it's super helpful because now we can understand where it's coming from, since it's mentioned multiple times. There's different renderings of essentially the same type of stories or stories of people.
Different interpretations, different books, different people's names, different times. It's like, what?
Yeah, so as time goes on, there's updated versions and things like that. So it's really helpful for the readers to understand where the author is getting all this information. So even talking about how there are different renderings, right? From the very beginning, it was written once. But over time, at the time, they didn't have like today's printer press or the computer to just print out copies. They had people who would sit there and essentially write it all out by hand. And sometimes it wouldn't even be the same person finishing that text. It would be multiple people over over many years, because they would add, details like art details and things like that. And to do it all by hand is really tough. But then also, over the years, as we're explaining, and different people interpreting the original writings, there are mistakes that happen.
It's like playing telephone, right?
Right. Exactly. For example, you get a writing, maybe the person doesn't speak that language perfectly. So there's some words that he had to just kind of be like, well, I think this is what they were trying to say, or I think this is what it's supposed to say, or it was so unlegible that they were just like, oh my God, I don't even know what they were trying to say here. So let me just kind of figure out what they were trying to say, and I'll write my interpretation.
And talking about that, just spreading across the world to different cultures, the same word means something different to another person from a different part of the world, right? So they're gonna transcribe it, decipher it, whatever, into what makes sense to them. So it's definitely not gonna be the same.
Right, and so it also depends too, like who's writing it, at what time are they writing it, the culture, the community. It all plays a factor into, I believe, the rendering at the time.
I don't want to say political, but I would say the church or the leader at the time, they probably also want to send a specific message to their people.
I mean, right.
So that could have been a pressure too to the author to write a certain way.
Right, there's like not one type of author. There's many. Definitely religion plays a huge role in politics or governing a group of people for their own gain, whatever it may be, positive, negative, that's all for interpretation of oneself, but it all plays a role in a community. It helps guide people. I think religion mostly for people it gives them a sense of hope, and it gives them a sense of place in the world. It also gives them a lot of meaning. A lot of people go through life, and I feel like they believe they're a little lost. Yeah. It gives them a path. It gives them something to look forward to every day. It gives them a sense of stability, which is super important, especially in a large group of people. And when you have stability, safety is what it kind of gives to people. You gain loyalty from your subjects.
And there's a lot of good examples, too, that the author does throughout this book. Like in this current example you're talking about, he mentions back in the Roman Empire when it was at its peak, the regular citizen, the slaves, their life just sucked. Like day to day it sucked. But through religion, through Christianity, through what started spreading in Rome, they started to see like, yeah, right now we're struggling. It's hard times, but when we die, it's going to be paradise.
Right.
We're going to be way better off, so just keep going through it, endure, and eventually, we'll be at a good place with family and ancestors. So that, he does mention that briefly, and it's actually pretty cool because you could dig into that as additional, historical facts. And as we all know, whoever either studies the Bible or just is aware a little bit with the crucifixion, all that stuff, you see the Roman soldiers,
right?
Jesus and the citizens, so it's all interconnected.
Right. Oh yeah, it gives people that sense of something to look forward to, right? Mm-hmm. And an end game. It's kind of like, why are we here?
Yeah. And then you're struggling for a reason.
Right.
Kind of like when you have bad luck, like, this has to be for a reason. Something has to come up.
The author does a really great job with giving us enough information of something that connects to religion or a passage or something that he's trying to express, but doesn't stray off too much to where now we're stuck in the Roman Empire. Like, the author definitely had a clear vision of what he was trying to accomplish with this manuscript in particular. So as far as what we were just talking about earlier with people struggling for a purpose, it's all part of like the divine, everything happens for a reason. Maybe people come into your life and come out of your life for a reason. There's a lot of talk of that.
But that seems to be the biggest purpose of this book is the original transcript, whether God said to write it or not, it was lost along the way, and now we just have like he said, she said, he said, this is what I interpret from so many authors ago. So he's trying to piece it all together and like, is this the true message?
He calls it just a document.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the purpose of this. Just don't take it take it with a grain of salt, like what it is now.
Yeah. Because it means something totally different than it did from its origin. He even states like it's alien now.
Yeah.
Like from its original being, from its original state.
Yeah, just think about the history books.
Yeah.
World War I, there's so many books, so many interpretations.
Yeah.
Every decade there's like, oh, we saw this differently, or actually this is what happened.
Right. So, or new information comes about, and you're like, wow, oh my gosh, a different perspective. So we all know, most people all know the basic story of Adam and Eve. And the author goes to talk about how that makes her, or females in particular, the lesser race or the inferior sex, right? And I liked that the author also brought up that they were essentially made from the same materials, basically making them like twins. So why were women seen, or Eve in particular, seen as less than?
Yeah, if you think about it that way, it's true, because how most of us have come to learn the story is Adam was first, he was lonely, or he needed a companion, whatever it may be, and God took his rib and created Eve out of it. So you could kind of say that women wouldn't be here if it weren't for a man, even though women are the one that
give birth to
the whole process of making life and giving birth, creating life is a woman. So it's kind of like the chicken and the egg. This is saying like the egg came first, like how?
Right, exactly.
So it makes you think differently, and it's true. But because of that, throughout life, you could see that women have been treated lesser. Pay, jobs, roles.
Yeah, in many cultures, women aren't really seen as important, or, I mean, we're not even trying to be better than, just equal to. There's no equality there. Like you mentioned, with jobs and everything, and women are expected to be, the child bearers, the child nurturers and caregivers and all these things, but we also hold no value, really, in a lot of cultures, even today.
Yeah, and that was a thought of the book when doing all the research is, was this the reason that throughout life, as religion spread, that women were treated as inferior because they wouldn't be here if Adam wouldn't have.
So can you imagine if the narrative had shifted to men and women are just equal, and that's that, and that be the continuation of that story, be we're all equal. Like how different society nowadays would be, how that would have shifted so much in all the cultures all around the world, because they, like we've mentioned already, all the cultures pretty much, even though they were in different locations of the world, had different things going on at the time, they all had similar stories.
Oh, yeah.
Of things happening like this in their religion, which structured their way of life. So can you imagine the narrative being that we're all equal? How different the whole world would essentially be. I really feel like it would be totally different.
That's true.
I feel like we would have progressed faster.
Way faster, and I think the narrative would shift to women are more of a risk taker because she ate the apple and let's see what happens. Let's roll with it. So, that's different than you're inferior and it's your fault for everything.
Yeah.
Right.
Placing the blame. Yeah. And I feel like even today's standards, not saying man or woman, but like when people come from a different background or a different culture or upbringing, and you bring these minds together, there's going to be different ways of thinking of how to do things. And it could help progress happen faster. So it's like, if we were all just equal beings, can you imagine where we would be now, today?
In space somewhere.
I don't know, but I just feel like, I think religion played a huge role, in gender equality or inequality.
Using humans half capacity.
Yeah, half capacity. Can you imagine? Full capacity, full steam ahead.
Yeah.
I like that the author keeps us thinking about these questions. There's so many questions being thrown at us, but I feel like they're really good questions.
Yeah, and it's not pointing fingers. It's not saying all this stuff is false.
Or right or wrong or what have you.
It's more of what if, or research here shows this, so why isn't it this talked about? And this is what actually, became in some cultures. I think in some chapters he talks about, they actually focus more on, there's a lot of mentions of women or the womb, like the cavemen used to live in caves, which is like an interpretation of the womb of a woman. That's where they were safe. That's where they grew.
Right.
And it was like where life happened pretty much. And when they came out, they explored life and, whatnot. So what happened to those stories? Like it just went away from women being a part of the whole reason of being and religion spreading or, whatever it may be.
But I think that's also plays into what we were saying at the very beginning, was that whatever time period we are in, people or religious leaders take their religion, interpret it in a specific way that is more meaningful and purposeful for them to justify any and whatever it is they're doing or trying to preach, right? So whether it's right or wrong, they're justifying their actions. So they're justifying treating women less than because yada yada yada, because yada yada yada,
Yeah. And it kind of sucks too, but through his research, the author found that some authors took other authors' work and either took from it or added a chapter in between all their stuff, which changed the whole document, the whole book.
Oh, right. Yeah. Right? So he goes on to talk about like holy plagiarism and how we have the text that we're given now at this time, and we're trying to kind of upgrade it, update it a bit
like
to now.
Paraphrase it to today's
world.
world.
So we're taking that original text. We're not technically copying and pasting it, but we're taking it, we're adding to it, we're zhuzhing it up, we're creating a little bit more of what our ideals are nowadays, or what we want for our community to start believing in, and putting that out there.
And it's not the original text or the original author.
Right. So it's like, what is it now? It's a continuation of original stories or original happenings.
But things are added, things are removed.
Yeah. Embellishing. Lots of embellishing, I think. Thanks for hanging out with us, and be sure to check out God's Words by Ricardo Sevilla.